So what you're looking at here is a flake that I shot with the camera directly above and perpendicular to the plane of the snowflake. Now this is really beautiful, but what you end up getting is sort of this ghost outline despite the ring flash. It allows you to see a lot of the details of the actual snowflake, but it really doesn't have the oomph factor that we see when we shoot other flakes at an angle. Okay, here's another example of a snowflake. This was very early on in when I was recording snowflakes. This is a very beautiful flake, but again, the angle was such that now I get a little bit more detail. I'm slightly slanted and not directly perpendicular over the flake, and you can see that there's a lot of really beautiful details within the flake itself. However, the flake is mostly transparent and is lacking some of that oomph factor. You'll also notice that the flake is slightly blurry. And the reason that it's blurry is when I first started shooting snowflakes, I did not take into account how very important it is to take a bunch of snowflake photos. So the ones that I've been taking lately, like I said, 30, 40, sometimes 50 shots of a single snowflake. This was taken with around 10 shots, and what ends up happening is you see blurriness because very little of the actual snowflake was in perfect focus, and so you end up getting a blurry snowflake when you composite the images together. Now this is another example from this year this time. You'll notice that the flake itself appears to be sharper. The angle that I have is a little more acute than it was in the last image, and what you're ending up seeing is much more of this edge-on view of the actual snowflakes. In fact, in some areas it looks three-dimensional because in fact it is. This was taken with about 20 shots, so still not ideal, but allows you to see a lot more detail in the snowflake, but still lacks the oomph factor. And here's what we're really going for here. Now, this is not by any means the perfect image. It is fairly grainy, and that was because the snowflake was really small, but on the other hand, it also had some tremendous detail. At this point, I'm about 33 degrees angle from the snowflake, and with the upper portion of the flash again illuminating the snowflake, what we end up getting is a lot more of a reflected surface. Now I can probably improve this image a little bit more in post-processing. There's a lot of chromatic aberration, which we're going to skip for right now, but what you can definitely see in this snowflake is the center is just exquisite. It looks almost surreal, and that's because the angle of the flash illuminates the fine surface details in the center of the flake. And that definitely makes a big difference in the quality of the flake and the wow factor. You also get to see a lot more of the architecture of each of the different portions of the flake, really making this a really cool image. That's what we're actually going for. And now this is the pièce de résistance. This particular snowflake was probably the best that I've shot, and I really am proud of this one. The angle is even more acute, but you can see that most of the flake is actually pretty much in focus. I've done some heavy post-processing to make it really appear like it's popping off the screen, and what you're seeing is incredible details of the snowflake itself. This is what we're actually shooting for.